Welcome everybody to another edition of the East Coast Wars here in TEW 2020, as is now February, which means we're now in charge of Philadelphia Pro Power Wrestling, which is, another company that's part of the East Coast Wars. I was one of the losers, obviously. But it's more of a traditional throwback company, so, not quite an ROH, but, more of a mixture of, probably, a more typical wrestling company, but still advanced enough that has good wrestlers on it, and, not a lot of angles, because as we look at the product here real quick, just to show you, it's traditional, so it's modern throwback, and, events are, basically all matches, match less than 20 minutes will not achieve world-class scores, fans expect more matches to be quite lengthy, and comedy matches, basically, brawling matches, So yeah, but let's go on with the show, and I'll go over basically the storylines slash that I've created based on what the AI has done so far and what I want to do in the future and all that other fun stuff. So let's get rolling with the first show of the month, PPPW Power Wrestling Weekly, live from Philadelphia, PA. So we start with basically a squash where in a bout that didn't have much heat in terrible wrestling, Man Mountain Cahill defeated Mean Gene Catley in 6:21 by pinfall of the Power Chord. Man Mountain Cahill is, of course, one of the future members of Painful Procedure and TCW, and Mean Gene Catley will be a indie legend as we go along in the Cornellverse. Right now, he's just an 18-year-old rookie, so Cahill squashes him in 6 minutes. This gets a 29, Cahill gets a 43, and Catley gets a 13. Then Cahill with Herb Staley, his manager of Munsters, says he's the manager of Munsters. Cahill is his newest Munster, and he is going to create a path of destruction onto taking the PPW title off of Whistler one way or the other. And this gets a 55. Casilio is a good manager. Cahill is menacing, and Whistler is pretty over. So yeah, just setting continuing that feud. Then we have a tag team match in a bout that didn't have much heat until wrestling controlled chaos, which is Chris Rockwell and Gene Curtis, who is the future Enigma, defeated William Franklin and Sandy Townsley. Honestly, just two guys. In 9:57, when Rockwell pins Sandy Townsley, this gets a 30, Rockwell gets a 37, Gene Curtis gets a 27, Townsley gets a 20, Franklin gets an 18. Unfortunately, Franklin and Townsley didn't have any chemistry as partners, but the match itself was okay, and just puts over Controlled Chaos as a celebrate, which gets a 41. Then we move on to our next match, which is in a bout that had decent reaction from the crowd with subpar wrestling. Ramon Piaz defeated Lionheart Lawson 12:09 by pinfall, league losing ropes for leverage. So back and forth match as the announcers put over the fact that these are two of the better in-ring workers in the company, and they just want to be considered the best in the world. As this goes back and forth, but Ramon Piaz is able to do what others don't, and basically cheat to win. And this gets a 37, Lawson gets a 35, Piaz gets a 33. And Pace celebrating afterward gets a 37. Then we have basically a random 6-man match as in about terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat. Dan Billiott, Jake Harvey, and Jesse Christian defeated Deadbolt, Henry Bennett, and John Doe in 10:16 when Jesse Christian submitted Deadbolt with a human torture rack. So this gets a 28. Christian's really the only important member here as he's a former football player turned wrestler. Henry Bennett's a future Pride Glory guy. Deadbolt's a future hardcore guy, but yeah. But overall, Christian gets a 36, Harvey gets a 13, Billy gets a 15, John Go gets a 23, Henry Bennett gets a 27, and Deadbolt gets a 13. Then after the match, Chester Stein, who's basically one of the upper cards, comes out to congratulate the baby faces, and Deadpool attacks him from behind, and this gets a 30. Just basically setting up a match for next week. Then in another match that's basically part of that's considered considering who's trying to figure out who's the best in the world. In a decent match, Brent Hill defeated Stuart Ferdinand in 14:21 by pinfall the King of the Hill. This gets a 47, which is really good considering our overness. Hill gets a 55, Ferdinand gets a 38. So back and forth match, but Brent Hill is just that much better and is able to get the pinfall victory over Ferdinand. But Ferdinand is able to hit lots of lariats, lots of suplexes. Hill comes back with a suplex of his own. It's probably part of some some listicle in 20 years saying 10 great Brent Hill matches you've never seen. But Brent Hill is still able to get the win. And afterwards, Brent Hill celebrates to a 49. So there we go. So far, so good. Then in our main event match, which involves Whistler, the current champion, and the Skinner Brothers, the current tag champions, team up to take on Krusher Karloff, who is, one of the main heels, because look at him, he's Krusher Karloff, and the Dallas Wrecking Crew, which is Rick Sanders and the Punisher. So it's a back and forth match. So in a decent match, Krusher Karloff and the Dallas Wrecking Crew defeated Whistler and the Skinner Brothers in 16:47 when Rick Sanders pinned Matt Skinner. So this gets a 42. Rick Sanders sustained a corneal laceration, which sounds not great. Dookie gets a 32, Matt Skinner gets a 40, Lister gets a 55, Rick Sanders gets a 38, The Punisher gets a 33, and Krusher Karloff gets a 44. So basically Whistler and Karloff are brawling, and Rick Sanders is able to get the pinfall victory over Matt Skinner. This gets a 42, like I said. And then the post-match angle is, Karloff is going after Whistler, but Leon Williams comes in and makes a save. He has the Philly Patriot gimmick, so he's just basically, an understudy of Whistler and makes the big save as the crowd pops for that, as the big American babyfaces clear the ring, and this gets a 61. And overall, this gets a 39. Which, is a decent show considering, we have production things, but not too bad. So let's go to the post show, see if we get any interesting mail, and then we'll go on to the next show. Well, I'll go through the next week, but you'll see the next show. Let's see here. Williams. Okay, that's. Oh, and these goals don't really matter since I'm going back and forth, but just for this month at least, my goals are can't extend the contract of a date who has less than 45 charisma, and can't hire any wrestlers have an impactful style. So we got our storylines real quick. Best in the World is at 42, Tag Team Wars at 38, and the New Cold War is at 45. And if we look at our production, so we're basically low. So we look at the actual we're at where are we? Yeah, so we're behind RPW, XFW, and Dave in basically everything except broadcast quality. So I think what I'm going to do is because if we look at our what's the word I'm looking for here? I think what I can do is I can upgrade our production veil. Well, which ones are we behind? So yeah, so what would we would catch up with Dave. We upgrade this to medium, and we would catch up to we're going to go do our music. So there we go. Ooh, that's 10,000 a month. Let's see here, 75,000 a month. So that's the problem. This gets really expensive. Actually, we're not going to do anything. We're going to let the EI make these mistakes. But yeah, so I'll be back in just a second with the next show on the and let's check out medical. Rick Sanders. Okay, so he needs some surgery. So let's attempt that. And okay, so he'll be back in 47 days. So that'll be interesting because we need to do something as far as the angle because Sanders is injured. So I'll be back in just a second with the next show. Okay, now time for the second edition of Power Pro Wrestling. Okay, it should be even Philly, but I accidentally marked Pittsburgh. Not the end of the world. Anyway, so the chart starts out with a graphic with the announcers explaining since Rick Sanders was injured last week. Punisher and Rick Sanders basically lobbied PPW officials, and they've granted, because, after getting the win last week, they probably got a tag title shot, but instead Punisher will receive a title shot against PPW champion Whistler next week. So it'll be Whistler versus Punisher next week due to Rick Sanders' injury. This gets a 29. Then we go to the ring. As the announcers would reflect the fact that, but Skinner Brothers still wanted to defend their tag titles this week, so they have a title match against Controlled Chaos of Chris Walkwell and Gene Curtis, and in that match, about had decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. Controlled Chaos defeated the Skinner Brothers in 14 OT when Rockwell submitted Matt Skinner after a distraction from the Punisher. The Punisher comes down to ringside, points at his eye, yelling at Skinner Brothers. Rockwell is able to take advantage and lock Skinner in a hold in submission. This gets a 36. Dookie gets a 39. Matt gets a 39. Rockwell gets a 40. Gene Curtis gets a 31. And a big victory for the Controlled Chaos as they win the tag team titles. And afterwards, the Chaos, being big faces try to get the tag titles back, saying the Skinner Brothers were, distracted, but Skinner Brothers refuse and say, you're the champions now. We've got our own battles to deal with. And this gets a 37. As we move on in sort of a, in the match that was set up last week by his attack, but Chester Stein gets his revenge as in a terrible match. Chester Stein defeats Deadpool in 10:29 by pinfall the showstopper. This gets a 36. Deadpool gets a 11. Yikes. Chester Stein gets a 44. And Stein gets his momentum back and celebrates and gets a 50. forward, as in a battle that didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling, Lionheart Lawson defeated Henry Bennett in 8:25 at pinfall the Prideplex. This gets a 36. Lionheart Lawson gets a 36. Henry Bennett gets a 23. Henry Bennett was off his game, and this just gives him a little momentum back to Lawson after losing last week. And Bennett's an undercard guy at the moment, so he can afford the loss. And then Lawson celebrates, which gets a 28. So we move on, as in another squash, Man Mountain Cahill defeats Jake Harvey in 5:36 by pinfall of the power cord. This gets a 31, as Harvey dies for our sins. As Cahill gets a 44, Harvey gets a 14. And basically, Cahill cuts another promo saying he's a manager of monsters. It doesn't matter who gets put in front of this Man Mountain, they will be destroyed. And sooner than later, Cahill will be the champion. And this gets a 51, perfectly solid promo. Then we go to our semi-main event. As in a decent match, Krusher Karloff defeated Leon Williams in 12:09 by pinfall the Rhythm. Okay, I probably need to change that name, as obviously that's about his future gimmick, so I'll go ahead and change that, probably. But this gets a 41, so let's say it's a Russian sickle. Karloff gets a 44, Leon Williams gets a 47. Karloff was off his game. Karloff was tiring towards the end, because, because I said it as a brawl, and Karloff doesn't have stamina quite yet, if right beside risk it. Still was a good match. Let's see here. Was there any other reasons besides? Okay. No. Okay. Nope. So they get to 41. Then Karloff, does a beatdown on Williams, and Goldworthy also challenges Whistler, saying, my man is the one who deserves the next title shot, not some tag team wrestler whose partner got an ouchie in his eye, but me sitting behind this Soviet monster. It's 1997, so he's been gone for 4 years, but he's a heel, so be it. And this gets a 51. And then in our main event, Brent Hill drew Raymond Diaz in 20 minutes when the time limit expired. So, this is just put over as two of the best in-ring wrestlers in the world going after each other. So Hill gets a 57, Diaz gets a 37. Again, back and forth match, but the bell rings after 20 minutes as the time limit expires. So really good match. 52, I think our best match so far. And afterwards, basically, the crowd chants rematch as both men sort of nod at each other. Will Paez, says he was about to get the win, ignoring the fact Hill was dominating him at the end. As the show ends with a 46. So actually one of our better shows, probably one of our better shows considering what was at the top of the card. But yeah, so next week it'll be Whistler versus Punisher for the tag titles, perhaps a rematch for Hill and Piaz, and of course the continuing story of Cahill trying to get his title shot, and the Karloff feud versus America. So let's look at the mail real quick here and see what pops up next. Let's see here. Mail-wise, okay. Nope, okay. And let's just look at what SWF did. Sam Keith versus Faith in a 90-day. Okay, that's nice. And then on Dawson Butler. Perfect Storm. Okay, versus Collectors. That seems like, okay. Interesting. Yeah, be back in just a second. Oh, and just check out our storylines real quick. So again, Best World is at 48, Tag Team Wars at 38, and Cold War is at 44. So I'll be back in just a second with the next show of the month. All right, we are set for our third show of the month, as it's February week 3 of 1997, as we're in Philly with 500 people, and we start with the debut of the Moving Target. Target's basically master wrestler from the Southwest, brought him to be a high flyer and part of the roster, and basically is my one signing for this month. And in a terrible match, the Moving Target makes his debut, defeating Stuart Ferdinand in 950 by pinfall with a bang on Target. This gets a 25. Target gets a 23. Stuart Ferdinand gets a 32. Ferdinand had a disc herniation. That's unfortunate. But the match itself got a 25, so not terrible considering Target had no popularity in the tri-state. And Target Silverman gets a 26. Then we move on to basically another squash, as again Catley and Harvey die for our sins as the main crushers of Cahill and Krusher Karloff just run over them, as Cahill pins Catley in 6:36 with the power cord. This gets a 29. Harvey gets an 18. Catley gets a 15. Karloff gets a 46. Cahill gets a 48. And yeah, just a total squash. And then post-match, both managers, put forth their ideas why their man, deserves a title shot. They argue a little bit. With Staley says he's the manager of monsters, and Cahill's the true monster. Goldwiller says he has the hottest talent in wrestling today with Karloff, and he will bring change to Philly Pro by bringing the power of communism to this company. They argue, but they both agree one of them will take care of Whistler, and his time as champion is numbered. And this gets a 55. Then we have in a non-title match, the controlled chaos of Chris Rockwell and Gene Curtis defeating Jesse Christian and Lionheart Lawson in 14:53 when Rockwell submitted Christian after Lawson accidentally struck Christian. So, back and forth match. It looked like Christian Lawson might get the big non-title win and an upset over the new tag champions, but Lawson comes out of the ring, hitting like some sort of like spring move, actually hits Christian, and Rocco is able to lock into submission. This gets a 38. Curtis gets a 29. Rocco gets a 40. Lawson gets a 32. Christian gets a 33. And post-match, Christian and Lawson argue post-match. And this gets a 38. Then we have in a poor match, Chester Stein defeating Henry Bennett in 9:34 by pinfall the showstopper. This gets a 43. Stein gets a 46. And Bennett gets a 26. Just a straight head win for Stein, as I honestly don't have much of an idea for what to do on the other card. And then Stein celebrating gets a 45. Then in a 6-man match, in a poor match, Brent Hill and the Skinner brothers defeated Dino Machino and double feature, which is Ram Piaz and his partner, who is his name? William Franklin. As in the match in 15:09, Dookie Skinner pinned William Franklin with an STO. This gets a 45. So again, back and forth 6-man as Hill and Pace go back and forth with each other in the ring as the Inners put over their classic 20-minute draw last week. But the Skinner brothers, who lost the tag titles last week, get a big win this week as Dookie gets a 34, Matt Skinner gets a 39, Brent Hill gets a 55, Dino Machino gets a 25, William Franklin gets a 26, and Ray Piaz gets a 40. Then post-match, Hill and Piaz agree to a match with a 30-minute time limit next week. And this gets a 46. Just, back and forth, both of them saying they're the best in the world and agreeing to a big 30-minute, time limit match next week. Then Wilshire cuts a promo saying, it's too bad about what happened to Rick Sanders last week, but, he's giving Punisher a shot, and, he's going to win for America. And if Punisher wants to try to punish him for what he did last week, well, that is not his fault, but he'll accept the challenge. And, he doesn't really matter who he takes on, whether it's Cahill or Karloff, as the fans and the spirit of America will help him win, especially against a dirty commie like Krusher Karloff. 45, solid promo. And then in the actual match, in a decent match, Whistler defeated the Punisher in 14:39 by pinfall the Rebel Yell. Whistler makes defense number 8 of his tri-state title. This gets a 49, Whistler 52, Punisher with a 34. Sort of not a throwaway title defense, but just an undercard, versus a mid-carder, as Whistler gets to look good. And then post-match, Whistler celebrate, the Man Crushers come down, William Williams save, and everybody, argue with each other. And I accidentally put in Henry Bennett here instead of Herbs Daly. Damn it. But still, gets a 54. So not the end of the world, as the show itself gets a 44. So solid show, really continues the build-up of the Whistler and Williams, that new Cold War feud. The tag champions got a big win. And yeah, other fun stuff. So yeah, good stuff. And let's see here. Ferdinand. Okay. So, he just has an injury. It's being worked through, but I won't book him next week. And again, we look at our storylines. So Best in the World's at a 48. Tag Team Wars at a 37. And New Cold War's at a 44. So, and I'll be back in just a second. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll be back in just a second with the next show, with the final show of February. Then, of course, we'll go over what the other companies in the East Coast Wars did this month. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, it's now time for the last show of February as we continue Philly Pro Power Weekly live from Philadelphia, PA, as we start with another match for the Moving Target as he makes the second match here in Philly Pro, as in about that terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat, the Moving Target defeated William Franklin 953 by pinfall with a bang on target. This gets a 33, Moving Target is up to 33, and William Franklin had a performance of 25. Solid win for Target, and he celebrates to a 31. Then we have our next match, which is a terrible match. Lionheart Lawson and Jesse Christian bounce back from their loss last week by defeating Dino Machino and John Doe in 10:08 when Jesse Christian pinned Dino Machino. This gets a 32. Doe gets a 21. Dino Machino gets a 22. Christian gets a 37, and Lawson gets a 36. And then the babyface is celebrating, gets a 37. So again, solid win for them. Everything looks like it's roses, and last week was just, bump in the road for this possibly new tag team if the AI continues to book them. Then in a poor match, the Punisher defeated Dookie Skinner 9:27 by pinfall with a pile driver after Rick Sanders, eye patch and all, interfered. So yeah, this gets a 38, and Punisher gets a 38, Dookie Skinner gets a 30. And then Punisher, oh, this should have been before, we'll make it afterwards. As Punisher, basically Sanders with his eye patch, points at the Skinners to say, this is, payback for how you injured me and scarred me for life. Ignore the fact it's just an eye patch and he'll be back in like a month. But, he's a heel, he'll lie about things. As the Punisher gets to look scary, this gets a 31. And then the heel celebrating their actual win gets a 33. Then we go to our semi-main event, as in a bout that had good heat and decent wrestling. The main crushers of Krusher Karloff and Man Mountain Cahill defeated the Philly Patriots of Whistler and Leon Williams in 1544 when Karloff pinned Whistler. It says with a Russian bruise, but let's change that to a Russian sickle after Floyd Goldworthy interfered. So this gets a 42. Let's say Goldworthy whacks Whistler with the American flag. Gasp. And that allows, that upsets Whistler, allows Karloff to drill him from behind with the Russian sickle, and get the pinfall victory. This gets a 42, as Cahill gets a 48, Karloff gets a 42, Whistler gets a 42, Williams gets a 36, and Williams and Whistler have zero chemistry as partners. Interesting. And it was a little short for, a main event match, but look at Krusher and Cahill, these guys are not pulling out 20-minute class sets, as this gets a 42. As in the post-match, Karloff tries to take the title, but Cahill rips away, and as they're both fighting over it, Whistler runs in, hits a double clothesline on both of them, and grabs back his title, and holds it up to both of them, pointing at them. And that gets a 53. And then it's time for our main event, as in a decent match, Ramon Piaz defeats Brent Hill in 28-42 by a handful of tights. So, this is a back-and-forth match. It looks like it's going to go to the, 30-minute time limit once again, when Piaz hits sort of rolling reverse, sort of victory roll, holds the tights, puts his foot on the ropes, and gets a big pinfall victory. And was supposed to be a match who determined the best wrestler. Ramon Piaz shows that he'll do what others won't and get the big victory in the main event here. This gets a 54. Hill gets a 55. Piaz gets a 41. And Pace celebrates, but Hill's upset, and it gets a 45. And the show itself gets a 47. So again, let's look at any interesting mail we get after this, and then we'll go to the end of the month, see how the East Coast War for this month came out, look at what the other companies did, and then that'll be that. So yeah, nothing interesting. So I'll be back in just a second with the end of the month news and going over what the other companies did, and a quick preview of the next month and the next company we're going to do. So I'll be back with that in just a second. Alright, it's now at the end of the month, so let's go over a couple things. First, let's look at what HGC did, just because it's always interesting. So Ripcord defeated Dusty Streets in an 85, Sam Strong defeated Roman Heartthrob, Wilster defeated Beelzebub Bud to retain the international title, and Carter Homicide defeated Liberty. Interesting. So first the news, we finished number 3 out of 4. So if we look at the actual battles, Dave was number 1, XW was number 2, we were number 3, and MyCW was number 4. Yeah. So then if we look at what the other companies did, real quick. So first let's look at what Dave did. So if we look at their show history, so starting out with, okay. Oh, right, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so this was our last show highlighted by Flanagan and Datsun defeated Tyler and Danner. So we go to the next show. So it was highlighted. Let's see. Kurt Lambert defeated Roy Stevens. Chris Caulfield defeated Michael Cook. Flat Binging did an interview. Tim Tantrum had a match. Danson and Danner had a confrontation. Black Murder defeated Officer Hardaway in 4-1 in tables match, retains tag titles. Flanagan defeated Brandon. Danson defeated Tanner. Pex defeated Walker. Okay. Then at Counterculture, we had Inuit defeated Lucas Hale. Big Cat Brandon defeated Michael Cook. Vin Tanner defeated Tim Tantrum in a tables match. Black Murder defeated Freddie Datsun and Monty Walker to retain the tag titles. Flat Black Flanagan defeated Chris Caulfield. Interesting. Officer Hardaway, Henry Lee, and Johnny Martin defeated the Wolverine and the Darkness Warriors in a tables match. Okay. Nemesis and Tyrannosaurus Pex defeated Damon Carruthers and 4-1. Okay. And then in the main event, JD Morgan defeated Vengeance and Eric Tyler to retain the Extreme title in a 69. So best match was this Nemesis match. Then we had Tyrannosaurus Pex defeating Flapjack Flanagan in a First Blood match. Vin Tanner getting a win. Black Murder retaining the tag titles over Hardaway in 4-1. And yeah, okay, still same stuff. We had Flanagan and 4-1 defeated Vin Tanner and Tyrannosaurus Pex. Datsun defeated Laramie. Okay. And then Flanagan and 4-1 defeated Pex and Tanner in a dog collar match. And Black Murder defeated Tim Tantrum and Freddie Datsun in a cage match. Okay, interesting. So that got a 57 for them. Also, Dave declared war on A&W because of course they did. So let's look at what XFW did since they were the runner-ups. So let's see here. So, Inside Heat defeated El Tornado, Arthur Salvador Simpson, and Genghis Ran. In a 57, Sean Gonzalez defeated I Butcher. In a 49, Danger Kid and Nation of Filth defeated Guru and the Big Smack Vandals. Yeah, okay. And Big Duck Kindle got a win. Okay. Let's see here. This Madame Moon defeated Blackjack Robbins in a cage match. Guru defeated Jimmy Cox in a tables match. Genghis Khan defeated Hardcore Killer. Danger Kid defeated I Butcher. Big Duck Kingdom Nation of Filth defeated Midler and Big Smack Vandals. Frankie Future in the Shadow defeated Sean Gonless and author Salvador Simpson. And the Insane Heat defeated El Torrando to retain the world title. Okay. The Insane Heat defeated Frankie Future to retain the world title. El Torrando defeated Genghis Khan in a first blood match. Arthur Salvador Simpson and Sean Gonzalez defeated Big Duck Kindle and Danger Kid in a cage match. We got a 57. Shadow Nation of Filth defeated Bud Miller and Big Duck Vandals in a table match. We got a 47. Okay. And then last show of the week was Elton Rando defeating Genghis Khan in a tables match. Shane Gonzalez and Arthur Salvador Simpson defeated Big Duck Candle and Danger Kid in a 58. And Frankie Future defeating Bud Miller. Okay, interesting. Then we go to Rapid Pro. Remember, we're not doing NYCW because they're not part of the East Coast Wars. Let's see here. And then we go to Rapid Pro. Okay, so we go to their shows. So their show history. Oh, if we look at XFW's real quick. News, okay. Interesting. Yeah, if we go back to Rapid Pro, where are you? There we go. So we go to their show history. Okay. So they had Steve Flash defeating Brent Hill by DQ. Some tag matches, including Brent Panda Mask and Black Eagle defeating Donnie J and Be the Crown. Wow, that's interesting for a match. Brent Hill defeating Squid Boy. Pete the Billbilly, Steve Flash, and Alex Braun defeat Jungle Jack and the Axe of God, which looks like it's... Okay, that's sure a tag team name. That's wrong. The Ghost defeated Officer Easy Way and Peregrino Soto. And then we had Pete Hillbilly, Steve Flash, and Alex Braun defeated Panda Mask and the Ghost. It was got a 47. Silver Shark defeated Daniel Cannon, which gets a 35. Okay. And Rapid Television, Steve Flash defeating Dylan Seidel to retain the world title. Brent Hill defeated Pete the Hillbilly. And Easyway, Braun, and Soto defeated Fujino and Brains Over Braun, which again, if you don't remember, is Cousin Ezra and Lance Henderson. And then Officer Easyway, Steve Flash, and Alex Braun defeated Fujino and the Ghost. And Brent Hill defeated Johnny DQ at 41. So interesting. And then if we look at like just their size, I think they've fallen out of the where would I show it real quick? Show history. Nope, that's not it. Size. There we go. So yeah, they've retained the same size. Again, if we go to our size real quick, track progress. We actually went up back 2 points, up above and up a point in the Tri-State, so that's good. And I think if we look at Dave real quick, Dave is still out of 38th, which is interesting. And XFW, there's your size. Okay, if we track them, so they're still out of 45, just in the Tri-State, so interesting. But they're almost out of money, so that'll be interesting if we even get to them. Rapid Pro. Yeah, Rapid Pro. Okay. So, and the thing is, like, all these companies are losing money because they're immediately jumping up to what's wrong? They're immediately jumping their production values all the way up to win the wars, but that might be something that might change. But let me see here. Is there anything else to show you guys? Oh yeah, okay. So next month will be Rapid Pro. So if we look at them, their product is basically ROH. 80% matches, 20% angles. So upset by dangerous, controversial, bloody match types. Only basic setups and high flying aids will be okay. Not a lot of angles. Then if we look at their titles, Steve Flash is still the world champion. Double Act of Lance Henderson and Cousin Ezra is their tag champions. Top guys are Steve Flash, Brent Hill, Alex Brown, Lance Henderson, Silver Shark, Dylan Seidel. Cousin Ezra, Samoan Warrior, Fujino, Phantom Freak, Phantom Zero, etc. So that'll be interesting. yeah. So yeah, that's it for now. So again, next week next video will be RPW, as we'll continue to look on and see what Dave and PPW does without us now that they're no longer have to deal with us. I'll be back, next week with this. And of course, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like. Comment below when you're enjoying and not enjoying, and subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including my Cornellverse weekends, which is this, and my TEW and my TCW 2016 and TEW 2020, my WCW 1993 with no Eric Bischoff series, MLW 2004, now in 2005, and of course my long-running WCW 2001 series, now heading towards Mayhem 2003 and Starrcade 2003. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed the show, go and give it. And so, talk to you later, and adios.